Everyone, welcome to the Omega Files, and tonight we're going to have a little talk about episode 7 of the current run of Doctor Who, and that is titled Kerblam. Kerblam. Interesting choice of title, I got to say that, given the way some folks have been looking at this season. I'm shocked they didn't call it Kerplunk, as we've heard. But all right, let's go ahead. We'll start at the top this time. When I call on you, go ahead and go into your opening thoughts on Kerblam. So let's start with Connor Farley.
Absolutely loved it. Thought it was actually the second best, joint first of the series, actually. All the characters were great. Kira, who I think was actually the standout of the episode, was someone that is very reminiscent of Shona from Last Christmas, and we all know how she was received. Oh, we want her as a companion. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen because she died. But you got Julia Hesmenhag, you've got Lee Mack in there, you've got Claudia Jessie as Kira. All characters were really good, really well written. It was a nice it wasn't even a character piece, actually. This week was a little bit different in that it was actually driven by the plot. It felt not like Chibnall's vision and more like just a traditional episode of Doctor Who. And I guess that for some people, that's going to work a lot better than the other 6 deliveries we've had this series. The Doctor was really good in this. I liked Jodie a lot. Ryan was... I've got to echo Philip's misgrievances about Saranga Conundrum. While it wasn't talking about his family, the way he goes on about his condition now is really annoying. Like, he doesn't need exposition of everything about his life that's so bad for people to feel sorry for him. I just don't understand why that has to be a character trait. But all in all, the threat was really great. Pete McTeague is definitely the Matheson of the Chibnall era, which is a comparison that I've heard a lot and I actually agree with. And I think that because Jamie Matheson was the best writer of Doctor Who in his particular time, this is very, as a first delivery, this is amazing. And I hope that actually Pete McTeague, who does a lot for the DVDs of the classic Doctor Who, I hope that he comes back because he's obviously got that very strong connection and love for Doctor Who as a whole. So great episode, great threat, great plot, great story. And the reveal at the end I did not see coming with Charlie. That was really well handled. Although the message was a bit strange, the fact that he didn't want automation to take over human workers, which is inevitable anyway, and you're probably not going to stop. And I don't entirely think that even if automation does take over, it wouldn't be a total 100% takeover. So although it was nice to sort of bring that real life thing of, struggling to get work, sort of economic downturn sort of thing that is very much a real life and realistic sort of facet of the story. So overall, it was a great piece of an hour of TV. And also, as a final thought, Sagan Akinola is a bloody legend. That guy can do music for Doctor Who for the next decade if he wants, because that was a fantastic soundtrack as well.
Well, of course, they had to have, Ryan bring up his condition to make up for the last 6 episodes where he didn't. Okay. All right. Callan, go ahead.
Here we go. Right. The story opens with a robot arriving. No, please, no. Where the hell are Doctor Who folklore? You can't just suddenly invade the TARDIS like that. It happens very rarely, and it shouldn't happen. It's all right if the Doctor is there spinning around in space, and the Doctor says, it's a message or a present or something, and she switches off a force field. Fair enough. Allow it, but, cover it with a line. It's older than Doctor Who in itself. If something's a bit unusual, you cover it with a line, please. Anyway, there's somebody who said, I'll speak to their stuff later on.
Okay, let's move on to Philip.
Hello. This was a very good episode for me. I suppose if I break it down a little bit, Jodie was a lot better as a doctor in this one than she has been for the last however many episodes. She's a lot more forceful, a lot more believable, a lot more, in there and sort it all out. So this is one of the best episodes for me. As much as the story, the woman that plays Julie Hedman, she plays the head woman in there. She was very good. I liked her character, and I like how she kind of self-deprecates herself along the way. The character is almost similar to her when she plays in the soap that she's in. That's not an issue. Now, the robots and everything, it kind of reminded me of the story, or the whole story had a bit of an echo of Purpose of Death for me. It was very similar in how it was executed, which is fine, but it's worth. I think Lee Mack was wasted for a star, cameo, very wasted. What's her name? I can't say that word.
The boss.
The companion girl.
Kira.
No, the other one, the normal one. Okay, yeah, that's right. She was I liked her in this one a lot. She was very well-rounded in this one. I will say, as much as Connor said about his perspective, I found Ryan annoying as hell. He just kept going on about this and the other. It's like, well, you shut up, please. The old man, can't remember people's names now. Graham, he was slightly underused, but at the same time, there was some nice bits to him. Resolution with that guy. I understand what Connor's saying, but if you think about living on that planet and unemployment is so high because there's no jobs for the humans, I can see where he was coming from, and it's like, give us our job back instead of making robots do all the work. So I can see where he's coming from, but you would at least fall that the doctor would save his life before he got blown to smithereens. That's a bit harsh on her. I know she couldn't get to him, but she could have tried something. Widen the teleport screen or something. That's a bit harsh on her part. What else was there in the story? Nice callbacks to Matt Smith with the Fez. That kind of screams, please accept me as a doctor. Look, I'm wearing the Fez, it's me. So it's a bit of a, wow, okay, slap me in the face with that one. Overall, it was a good story. I really enjoyed it. And it also had a kind of like music, as Connor said about Akinoa. It was almost Ocean's 11 types, sometimes along the way. Nice and pasty. And the CGI in that kind of elevator part of it, that was really nicely done. It looked really real and expensive and massive. So yeah, good story.
Oh, I know. How many here caught the throwback to Unicorn and the Wasp?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, that's the first time this is the first time we've had an episode that's kind of referred back to things that's happened before this season, with the Fez and, remember that time I was, did I tell you about the time I was with Agatha Christie or something like that? So kind of weird, but like I said, not too overdone. Gotta like that. All right, Paul.
Thank you. Doctor Who is back. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It reminded me so much of the classic series. It was great. A lot of nostalgia for me. The robots, I would say, reminded me of a mix of different other types of robots. Robots of death, the featureless expressions, that sort of thing. It was dark. It was great. It's what we've been missing, I think. I would say the Fez, that was brilliant. I think anyone that loved Matt Smith as the Doctor would have, for want of a better word, be having a fit, thinking, oh my God, who's the message from? Is it going to be Matt? I think a lot of people might have been thinking that. I mean, if you look at Facebook, a lot of them were saying, is Matt going to come back? Which I think wouldn't have been too good for the show, but I think it was really well done. I thought, like Connor, the music was great. It was in with the part that it was playing each as it plotted along. The plot was good. The pacing was good. I really enjoyed the pacing of the show. The supporting cast was great. Lee Mack was good, a lot better than I thought he was going to be. I know he didn't have much to do, but what he did do, he did well. But like, I think it was Connor that was saying Kira was the standout one there. I thought she was really good. I'll talk about other things later on, but yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it.
All righty. Okay, let's move on over to William.
Hey, now everybody. The beginning of the story, like, you know, you could say it was almost like a mystery because the doctor received a package and it says "help me" on it. So the doctor gets to the planet and trying to find out the two things: who was it that sent the message, and what was the help needed for. So what the funny thing is, in the first, you could say 3/4 of the story was pretty good because you find a co-worker disappearing. We don't know what happened to him, and of course the doctor's finding out specifically with her companions there. But when the revelation was revealed, like, I was a little bit perplexed. Like, is that the Kerblam warehouse computer itself was the one that sent the package and the message for help, because the computer discovered that it was being used by this co-worker that was an employee for Kerblam. So I was saying, well, since the computer knows who's doing it, what can he just be terminated and have one of the robots just teleport him back home? But it's, I mean, I can understand that's different from the story. That would have ended the story right then and there. But it would, because the buildup of what was the help needed was pretty not. It was a great idea that this person wanted to hurt the company so bad for more employees could work. But then at the same time, you're hurting the employees that are working there. So that means all those people that they're not gonna really have no employee, because they're not gonna hire more humans. They're gonna close down the warehouse because they're gonna have to do an investigation. That's the one thing that's gonna have to be done. But it's not a bad story. It's a pretty good story, and I gotta give, like Connor said, the music there stood up great. So I hope this person does get long employment. But I think Jodie stood up pretty good right here, especially how she was figuring things out, how she disconnected the robot, the original Kerblam, you could say deliverer, to help her to find out what was going on like that. That stood out pretty good like that. But I got a little bit confused like that. Lucky, I asked the guys earlier what was that like that, but it could have maybe a little bit tweak here and there could have made it much better than in my opinion, that it is. But I don't hate it, so it's a good thing like that. There's other things I will get into later.
All righty. Okay, let's move on over to Graham.
Yeah, how we doing, guys? For me, this was fun. It was enjoyable. The guys have alluded to, the guest cast were great. Who was it said that Lee Mack was underused? Was it Connor? Or whoever it was. My apologies if it wasn't you, Connor. But that's a fair comment. But he has intimated for the get-go that his was basically a cameo role. So you basically knew what you were getting with regards to that guest spot. Shout out to Twirly, the new cybernetic head companion. First one since Handles. Why not? Kind of beat a decent robot head from time to time. Decent premise. Is it the greatest thing I've ever seen? No, but it's still a lot of fun for 50 minutes of television. I would definitely give the writer of this another shot to see what he could do, and maybe a non-futuristic setting, and maybe a different element within the show to see if there's more strings to his bow. Not a problem there. But what I did love, and it gets brownie points, and it's been the scourge of my Doctor Who experience since the Ark in Space, the return of that deadly nemesis that is bubble wrap. The glory days of thy youth. The exploding bubble wrap. Hey, what the hell? It gave credence to the title, it served its purpose, and it was fun. And plus, everybody, again, had something to do. Albeit Graham was a wee bit in the background, but it still helped too. So, enjoyable enough. Is it perfect? No, there are some issues, but it kept me entertained.
All righty. Okay. Up next, Beefhead.
Yeah, I'll echo some of the points that the previous guys have made. The music, the background music added to it. There was good atmosphere. The way the robots looked and the voice was superb. It was charming but sinister, and there were good points of tension built within it. I like that, and I get what Connor was saying. The comparisons with Jamie Matheson in the story, but like Graham said, it's a fun episode. It's a sort of average episode, and this the most sort of not heavily drama character led episode that we've had so far. So it feels more familiar and comfortable. But obviously, against all the other episodes we've had, it sort of does stand apart because the other ones have been a bit mediocre, to be honest with you. So this one is probably going to be seen as a lot better. Jodie was okay. She was better than she was before, but like I say, the other times have not been great. So, this was good for me. It did for me though fall apart in the last 10 minutes. That it's sort of, I would have liked it to just continue with the idea that it's the robots, the menace, and everything like that. Then to suddenly switch it, and it's the mild-mannered janitor who's actually been helping them all the way along. Suddenly hasn't tried to subvert them, but is the reason for it. And the sort of end sort of thing about the employment and everything like that. Well, Jamie Matheson already did that to a certain degree in Oxygen, so it did seem like a bit of a rehash at that point to me, which they've done really quite recently. So I would have just liked for it to be maybe just more straightforward. If you think that's boring, that's fine. But they effectively built the tension that they could have followed on with it. The conveyor belt stuff, well, sorry, that reminded me of most Pixar films I've seen recently, Monsters, Inc. and Toy Story. They've done that to great effect already somewhere else. So that was just, I think that maybe that was just a bit of filler. I think this is fun. This was probably more fun for kids and everything like that. It's good because it's the better one out of a not so great bunch. It's far not perfect by any means. The supporting cast were really good. Lee Mack was Lee Mack. There was no sort of whys and wherefores about it. Julia Hesmondar was good. The only thing that I also really struggled with is that all of a sudden, sort of the system wanted to kill Kira to send a message to the janitor that will take away something that you love and kill it. So then, why were the other ones killed? Because there seemed to be no form of personal or emotional connection to all the other ones that died. So there were sort of flaws to it that sort of didn't round it off great, but. Yeah, it's fun. It was a fun one. So that's where we are on that one.
All righty. Okay, let's move on over to DWC.
Brilliant episode. Absolutely loved it all the way through. The drama was there. Tension was there. Got it. Was it? And obviously it had a message in there. Very much technically the message that we're still getting now about about technology and AI somewhat taking over to the point that people are losing their jobs through AI. This is a real issue, and they've taken that up to the nth degree of saying how to the point that now you have to have human protests about having at least 10% of humans in there. But I've got to echo a bit of what Beef was saying about killing of the girl. I can't remember her name. I will say I think the others were more intended as test subjects more than anything else, but then the system actually figures things out and kills her. I think they missed a bit of an opportunity, because all I was thinking was, well, hang on, doesn't that just show how cruel and callous that the system is, that it just didn't care to kill someone, just like this boy who was a terrorist. Let's make this clear. He was trying to kill people. He was absolutely a terrorist at this point. I agree Lee Mack was underused for such a great actor and comedian and all that. Also, they mentioned Charlie being an expert in cybernetics, but they didn't. What was it? Cybernetics and explosives. Also, they didn't really establish though whether he rewired all the bots, which were the one that killed Lee Mack and everything like that. I'm just working on the assumption that that's what happened. But overall, yeah, it was certainly exciting. Tension was there. The threat of death was now actually there. And may it continue in the next episode.
All right. Okay, Texas Tim.
it was really not that good. It was a bit too by the numbers. It was a sort of a cut rate remake of Robots of Death at his Amazon factory that just didn't really pay off. I mean, the terrorist message was a bit muddled, wasn't it? Like, I mean, okay, I know terrorists are stupid to begin with, but I mean, still, this guy is going to kill a bunch of people in order to support humans against robots. Whatever. I'm just saying. I mean, I didn't get where they were coming from with that. It didn't feel like Doctor Who to me. I mean, it was really a lot. It was just kind of by the numbers. I think that I'm surprised that everybody is rating it so highly, because I just think it didn't really work. It seemed like a kind of silly sci-fi kids show in a way. Maybe that's what they're trying to be now, but it didn't seem as clever as it was trying to be throughout, and I just didn't really feel it. At the end of the day, it did one thing that you should never do. It was just boring. And I mean, I think the best thing about it was, like Graham said, I mean, they finally found something to make bubble wrap scary, and that's all I got to say about it, really. I'm kind of disappointed. I would say this is the worst of the 7 so far.
All righty. Okay, AJ.
Yeah, for me, you can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. For me, I wasn't feeling this episode. It felt like it was a few stories stitched together that just didn't seem right. At the beginning, I thought maybe the people were being turned into the Kerblam robots, and it was like a prison thing, with the ankle tracker and all that. It just felt like it was a mishmash of a few story ideas, and then it just sort of fell together at the end with the whole subplot of him being a work activist, work for humans, not for robots, and the whole exploding bubble wrap thing. It just felt kind of mediocre to me at best. I'll get more into the little bits that sort of I did and didn't like, but yeah, it just didn't sit well with me this week.
Yeah, one thing I do appreciate about Series 11 so far is the fact that, dead people are staying dead. There isn't the miraculous, oh, look, I saved everybody at the end. And it does contribute to the tension, because now the threat is real. It's not, there's not going to be a happy ending, where everybody's going to pop up out of the ground and go, hi, I'm back. Look, yay. That's what I like about Series 11 so far, is they've brought that threat back and it now sticks. Okay, hands have started going up. Let's start over here. We'll start with William. Going ahead.
I understand what Texas was saying, and I agree with him in sort of way, because like I said, when the 3/4 of the story was a great mystery, because like people were disappearing, a letter was sent to the doctor that help was needed, but like again, like Beef said, the last 10 minutes really screwed it up, because if the computer knew what was going on, should have terminated that guy. And even though they wasn't going to do it as a joke, as a funny joke, all those robots that was going to be sent out to people's houses and deliver the package and pop the bubble to blow up, as a joke, the doctor should have sent all those robots to the planet Scarrow just to see how they like it getting a package, go their way. So it's a funny joke, my idea, but they wasn't going to write it like that. But I gotta agree with Texas, because that last 10 minutes really nuts it, because if this guy was such much of a threat, then he should have got terminated. But then he was he was showing infatuation to the girl, that he should have done something for her not to get harmed. But instead, she got grabbed, and he really did nothing to save her, because he knew what was going to happen to her, and he should have tried his best either to admit what he was doing, and they could have stopped. He could have saved the girl, but that means he really didn't care for her. That's my opinion of that.
Well, the robots would have got confused. They wouldn't have known which Scarrow to go to. There's been how many of them now? I've lost track, for crying out loud. All right, DWC.
Yeah, something I forgot to point out. There's actually a part where they're all in the office and stuff like that, and the doctor is kind of, I want to say, somewhat threatening them. So say, if I find out you're lying, you're going to have to answer to me, or something. It's like, did anyone else get a real feel that, oh, well, that just feels so much like David Tennant again, more than anything else. I mean, if you been talking about the Doctor being not really as forceful, I can't remember his exact words now, but not as forceful or as much as the Doctor is before. But when I'm looking at all that is absolutely authority of the Doctor. But I guess we have really been missing it a bit, and I hope that stays continues.
Okay, Connor.
One thing that I didn't think I would be saying after Saranga Conundrum actually is that Jennifer Perot has actually delivered the best directing of the series so far, I think, in that it's fun, it's zany. I think zany is a great word for this episode, actually. It's colourful, it's energetic, and like Beef was mentioned about the conveyor belt bit, it did feel very Pixar, but it was really, that scene was really well delivered. Director-wise, great action. Like, she's great. She handled the action of this really well. And to be honest, since it's the first time we've really seen any sort of, like, great deal of action in an episode since Series 10, I think that, you know, it was really well handled, actually. It was really well written action as well. Yeah, great direction from Jennifer Perot as well, who deserves a shout out.
Okay, Texas Tim.
Oh, I was going to say that's one of the problems. Also, is the guy is unbelievable. I mean, throughout the episode, I know it's supposed to be a twist, but he's just a happy-go-lucky janitor who is making goo-goo guys at some young girl in the other department, and it's just like all of a sudden at the end, he's a terrorist that wants to murder millions of people. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense, and it just had the word twist written all over it. I just think that also his plot was stupid. I mean, okay, let's murder a bunch of people to make a point. I know. Yeah, I mean, really, that I just don't get that. And like I think William said, wouldn't the computer have known what was going on? I mean, all this time. I mean, how is he getting away with all this subterfuge where he's actually killing people on the site and nobody's even paying attention or noticing? I mean, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. It's a pretty crap episode as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Kellen.
Yeah, to speak to the point of the computer knowing who was doing it, I think the computer had that sort of grasp of what was going on. It knew something was up, but then he couldn't put its finger on exactly who it was. And then he needed a doctor, I think. But I agree with Dexter's term. This isn't it's not a stellar episode by the numbers and boring. And if you have actors in it, you need them to sort of make a presence, and you want to like them. So when they die, you go, oh no, I like. Oh, no. That's just for me. I don't know. I turn off.
Okay, Philip.
It's all clear this up for me. Right at the beginning, when her parcel came, was the bubble wrap activated? I'm sure Ryan popped one as he was playing with it before they moved on to that world. Why didn't it explode? It did.
That wasn't one of the explosive ones, apparently. Then.
So, but he popped one. I know he did, and yet nothing happened unless it's a TARDIS defense mechanism where nothing can be. Can explode inside it.
It could have been that one was sent out before the explosive ones were packed and ready to go. So,
yeah, true. Okay.
Remember, for the computer, send that package out to the doctor.
Yeah, but
the computer must have made sure that the bubble wrap had nothing in it.
All right, fair enough. I'll give you that.
Graham?
He bought the bubble wrap to death with exposition.
No, just I find it interesting. We've got a vast few opinions on the one episode again, and a really prime example of different strokes for different folks once again when it comes to this season. I get Tim's point with regards to Charlie in the last 10 minutes of the thing. It did seem a bit, rushed. But what I'm loving is you look at the consensus of this episode there, the last couple of hours since it broadcast, and it's like. It looks like another Marmite one, folks. So, but the main thing I love is, for the last 6 weeks, all we've heard is, oh, well, the villain just walks away. There's no consequences. Okay. From Tim's point of view, he was a crap villain, but now, he got to come up and there was a consequence. And now they're still bitching because apparently the Doctor has no scruples. So, you can't win, folks. Some episodes you'll love, some episodes you'll hate. Move on.
Okay, AJ. AJ, you still there?
Yeah, for me, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. For me, the episode, the best part was Lee Mack and also the girl who played Kira. I think they were the best characters in this episode. But also just came to mind, in a way, this story kind of felt like the reboot Ghostbusters movie where the lonely nerd is in the basement, creating havoc and disaster and whatnot just to make his point come across. That's what it felt like to me. I don't know if anyone else is going to agree with that, but I don't know. Just most of this episode was just meh. Even Jodie's standout moment was her giving a speech about how you should respect your co-workers, which I thought was kind of weird as well. So,
All right, Paul.
Yeah, just a couple of things there that the guys were saying. Yeah, Ryan did pop the bubble wrap because I went back 3 times to try and see if I could check if he did, and he did. And then at the end of the program, they says, "Oh no, you mustn't pop that. Look what's happened." But it was the same box as what was delivered at the start. So that was that. I disagree with a few of them on regards to Leo. I thought he was used very well as the terrorist. I thought there was a lot of subtlety to it, but you could, if you look back, you can see different parts where you have an idea what's happening. But I thought he was used very well. So for me, it was really good. And to get his comeuppance at the end, like everybody else, I thought brilliant. That's what all terrorists should have done to them. Sorry, but that's my point of view. Okay.
Okay, Connor.
Just to throw some criticism at Jodie's door, while I thought she was better, one thing that other doctors don't do that she did is she actually undermined her own authority. Because if you remember in the scene in the office, where it was Julie Hesmondhalgh and Slade, I think his name was, she basically told them what she's going to do. And then she kind of turned away and said, "Is that good?" Like, it's almost like she's questioning herself. So obviously that just kind of undermines the whole authority. So it's like she goes from serious to really sort of chirpy within a nanosecond. And it just, you can't hold that moment of authority and tension like other doctors, because she follows it up with something totally ridiculous, or some, like, she's that insecure sort of, I don't know, bumbling ball of fun that just can't trust themselves to be that authoritarian about things. And it did kind of undermine that moment. So I wouldn't say that it's her best display of being serious so far, even though it did show signs that if she didn't do that, then it'd be a lot better. I think she'd be a lot better rounded form of a doctor. But that's just one thing that I noticed that kind of irked me, that other doctors wouldn't do.
Yeah, but that's just the acting, surely. They're just acting. I mean, that's the writing, sorry.
Okay, Philip.
How many times do I need to count the way she used the Sonic in this episode? It was way overused in this one again. I'm sorry, but it was, Brian. It was just so point, zip, zip, zip. I was like, can she not just use her hands and her brain to sort something out, rather than just use that damn machine every freaking minute? Honestly, there you go. That's my
How many times did Capaldi use the Sonic? How many times did Matt Smith use the Sonic? How many times did Tennant use the Sonic?
But there are ways of using it. She just uses it so ballsy out there. It's like it's an extra leg to her or something. It's like, put it away, woman. Come on.
If she used the Sonic that most men, in the way that most men want her to, it would be an X-rated program. Okay, Beef.
Yeah, I mean, Connor sort of got there before me, but I did feel a little bit, that I agree with Tim, to the point that this episode was, a little bit very much for kids, to be honest with you. And yeah, it did to a certain degree. There was a generic feel to it that perhaps this could have been any show as well as Doctor Who. So there was nothing that said instinctively, oh, wow, this is, Doctor Who at its finest. what the problem I've got, and kind of highlighted it as well, is that sort of Jodie is still sort of not there. We've all talked about the guest stars this week: Lee Mack, Kira, Julie Hesmondale. They sort of outshone the main cast, and it sort of seems to be that we are sort of going back to this point now where we're getting guest stars in every week or something like that, and either they're sort of just poor characterization there for attention, or they're outdoing the main cast. And it's sort of, I just don't know when they're going to find this balance at the moment, because it seems to be sort of, even to be honest with you, just going with the janitor, it's sort of, look, whether you love it or hate it, and whether you say, because there are points where their gender does become a point, to be honest with you, it's another guy who's a baddie. It would have been a better surprise to me if it turned around to be Kira at the end of it, who's the villain, because she was disgruntled because she never got a present in her own life and everything like that, and she just like resented it, and she had this real axe to grind, and it just made a purely irrational thing, and then gets away from technology and humanity not having worked, and that she's just like completely like screwed up and everything like that. That would have been a better shock, and it would have made perhaps for an interesting end to it. This one just was a little bit too by the numbers and a bit kiddie, but still Jodie's, I don't know, I'm sort of tearing my hair out, because there's a point where everyone's saying, she's the Doctor, she's there and everything like that, but really she's not. It's sort of, we did have a discussion last week about sort of perhaps if it had been a different actress in the role, would it be a different situation? And I'm sort of starting to have Jodie fatigue, because it's sort of when. That's it.
Okay, Texas Tim.
Well, if I could continue with that, I agree with Connor, Colin, and Beefhead on this point. Because, but I do think it's the writing. They're not allowing the character to come through. I still don't think you can blame the actress at this point, because she's not being given enough to do. She's not been allowed to find her own characterization as the Doctor by the writing. She's basically a collection of greatest hits, like this week. Oh, look at me, I got a fez in the post. And oh, remember that time with Agatha Christie? I mean, basically they're doing that kind of thing, and she's not been allowed to establish herself. And she walks around saying things like, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is what we're going to do, because this is who we are the Doctor, and blah, blah, blah. But so far, she hasn't really been allowed to, I think. I do think the problem's in the writing so far, that she hasn't been allowed to establish her own character as the Doctor. And it just seems to me like she's getting constant comparisons to Tennant and Smith, and the screwdriver isn't helping anything at all. I mean, it really is over the top now, like Phil said. It's just, come on. Can't you do something without the screwdriver? I know she did something last week without it, but come on. It's just, Tim is right. She's not established herself as the Doctor yet. She's just more of this kind of babysitter that's running around with all these kids and doing all this silly stuff. It's more like Sarah Jane, if you think about it.
Okay, DWC.
I wanted to follow on something AJ said earlier about, also, am I coming through clearly? Okay. AJ said something about the doctors had a big speech about respecting your workers, and he thought that was just, I would point out, as someone who has worked in these, really don't give a toss about you in those warehouses, because they know you can't really go anywhere else, so they don't treat you with any respect, which, let's face it, is kind of the big thing about the episode, but pretty much half the Earth can't work, so they have very, very little go. Also, as a bit of a complaint, as someone with experience in these fields, thing that to me, how they were packing all those packets. Don't just bubble wrap the item. You are supposed to stuff the box around it. So sorry, that's personal, but it's something that was irking me.
Oh, tell me about it. I've worked in a couple warehouses, and one of them we had to pack items and stuff like that. It's like, oh man. So this one kind of, reminded me of that, and not in a good way. Oh, that was boring ass work. Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to go on about sonic overload, the use of the screwdriver. If I put it up, how many times? First time she used it was when she was holding up a psychic paper to change the timetable or whatever it is on the mini laptop. You couldn't have done that any other how, I don't think. So yeah, sonic screwdriver for that. The next one, I believe, if I see it right, yeah, was when she pointed it at the filing system to open the file. I don't know if it was electronically locked or whatever. So all in all, she only used it, I think it was 6 times. There was 2 with a pose, must admit, but it wasn't all that. But I don't think she had overused it. The times that she used it was when it was electronically sealed, when she was in the head of the robot. How else is she going to do that? She's scanning it to find the information. So that was me. Okay.
You know, one clever bit I'm shocked nobody has pointed out. Yeah, it did involve the cabinet. You notice that Lee Mack thought his character thought the system was causing all the disappearances. So notice he stored the missing employees' files in a regular good old-fashioned cabinet on a good old-fashioned hard copy, because he knew there was no way the system could get into good old-fashioned paperwork unless it used one of the robots, and even then, you know, it was a locked cabinet. Maybe they wouldn't know what to do with it. So I thought that was a clever little thing, throwing the just regular good old-fashioned filing cabinet in. All right, Callan.
Yeah, speaking to Sonic Overload, it's every time that something in the Sonic was not working quite so well. Only worked a few times an episode, and she just cut back on it. That would work better. The backlight goes a bit flat, and something like that would help. Because using it all the time just looks a bit. It's an easy get out.
I thought for sure with her having cobbled it together herself, it would malfunction every now and then. And I thought that would be a neat thing to do, since, you know, this one wasn't TARDIS produced. But, you know, maybe next season, we don't know. Okay, Connor.
I wasn't that bothered by Sonic Overload this week, but one thing that I noticed, because obviously the particular scene was actually shown on Children in Need on Friday, is when at the beginning she was showing her the psychic paper to basically get into the warehouse. How on earth did Julia Hesmondhal's character not realise that Jodie was tampering with the system with her Sonic at that time, because it was right under her nose, and she didn't even think to look at what was going on, because surely she would have heard that sound as well. It was barely like an inch from her. So really they could have cut to the chase about the whole undercover thing falling apart right there, because there would, like, that's just pure insubordinance, really. Like, you're not really being very observant there, are you, if you're missing that? And she's a people person as well, so it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Philip.
Yeah. Ooh. Mine now? Oh, hang on.
I can hear you. Go ahead. Okay, now you muted yourself.
Bloody hell. Anyway, you know how at the beginning of the episode they're flying through the vortex in TARDIS. She says that, and Jodie says, "I'm still getting used to the system." How long does it take for you to get used to your own flipping TARDIS? You've been in that machine for centuries, and yet she goes around like she doesn't know how to use it. It's kind of weird.
I'm still getting the hang of the new systems.
Phil, you gotta remember the doctor never read the manual book.
But every time the TARDIS changes its desktop or feed, he or she still knows how to fly the damn thing. It's like she's an imposter. She doesn't know what to do with it. What she's doing with it. And bear in mind as well, I still think it's a what's that alien called at the beginning of the season? Oh, what they call the
Stenza.
The Stenza. It's still Stenza crystallized, and I still think that's why she doesn't know what to do with it, because it's not exactly TARDIS technology. There you go. That's just me theorizing there. Okay, thank you.
I don't know what to tell you, Philip. Like I said, it's just it's a new thing, All right. Well, love it, hate it. At least we've had some good varied opinions this time around. Some people liked it, some people didn't. That's the way the world is. All I can say is this: like I said, I thought it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I sat down. I was like, it wasn't dull until you got all the way to it felt like you were on this runaway train ride. And then you got all the way to the end, and that's when it came to an abrupt halt, was right there just before the end. So, I don't know. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll put this sucker to bed. We'll rate it. Let's start at the bottom this time with AJ. How do you rate Kerblam out of 10?
Oh, okay. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It was very mediocre for me.
Okay. Texas Tim?
Yeah, I'll do that. 5 out of 10.
All right, DWC.
8.
8. All right, Beef.
It's a 5.5. It's familiar things. Jodie's still lacking agency, and the thing is, this is what I think the point to remember is that where you've had a lot of mediocre, and you've had one that's sort of okay. It's easy to get carried away and saying, "Oh my God, this is brilliant." It's not. It's just average. It's just the rest of them haven't been that good.
Okay, Graham.
I'll get 7.5. 50 minutes, enjoyable enough, but as the guys have alluded to, has a few problems.
Okay, William.
Same as Graham, 7.5.
All right, Paul.
Well, I loved it. It reminded me of the classic era. Sorry, but it did. I really enjoyed it, so I'm giving it an 8.5.
Okay, Philip.
Oh, I really enjoyed it, and my initial scoring in my head was 9. So I'm going to stick with that and say a 9 because I really enjoyed it as well, and it was good in most places. Even if
9.5 on Facebook, Phil.
I know, but never mind. But even if the Sonic was used a lot, I still give it a 9.
All right, Gallon.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going for 8 this thing.
Okay, and Connor.
In my Series 11 metric of rating, I'll give it an 8. I don't know how that would compare to other series, but it's an 8 for this one.
Well, I really enjoyed this one. I'm going to give it a 9. I thought the pacing was good, like I said, but it just when it got up to the end there, that's when things kind of derailed and went off, a little bit off the rails there, so to speak. Well, folks, see, what are we doing next week? Next week is episode number 8. What was the title of that one again? By the
Witch Hunters. Witchfinders, sorry.
Oh, that's right. It is the Witchfinders. This is one we've been looking forward to all series, and Dummy Me forgot the title. That's really good. Okay, so yeah, next week we'll have Alan Cummings coming in as King James the First. Looks like it's going to be a nice historical piece. Who knows? Maybe this will get more folks, on the train. I don't know. Well, until then, everybody, please.
I have a question. What is the rumors going around about next year and all that?
Okay, now you have to remember, this is Starburst Magazine's claiming they've talked or had somebody from the BBC confirm that Series 12 is going to air in 2019. But so far, I have yet to see anywhere, on the BBC page that says that. And now you've got another faction, Idiot Scarro, trying to say that it is going to air in 2019, but they're only going to air 6 episodes. And I'm like, okay, where did that come from? So you got one faction claiming they've talked to this one person. You got this other faction, but at the same time, you got Liza Mazimba saying it doesn't look like it's going to happen. As recently as earlier this week, he said that. So, like I said, until I see a formal announcement from the British Broadcasting Corporation themselves, then I'll get hopeful. But the thing is, they've been in pre-production as far as we know for the last couple weeks, which means they're probably ramping up to start shooting probably January, I'd say, just off an estimate. And I'm going off of the wardrobe designer's CV page, which has said he's been in pre-production for Series 12 for like the last couple weeks or so, since like beginning of November. So I can only assume they're ramping up to start filming in January. And the thing that gets me most is there's no reason on this planet why you cannot pump out 10 episodes and still be airing in October, when they used to start filming in the dead of spring and they'd still run 13 episodes out and a Christmas special that year. Trust me, gap years is one of the main things that's really killing this show. And it started back in the Moffat era with that Series 6 split. Then we're going to take this year off, that year off. But I'm not blaming Stephen Moffat. It's the idiots on Floor 6 who seem to think this is a good idea. So if they take a year off after completely relaunching the series, I got some bad news for you guys. It's called Kamikaze Mission, because you just decked your own plane. All right, I can't figure it out. If they do a gap this coming year, you're killing the momentum you've started. It's going to explode in your face. And how are you going to explain that, really? Because I'm tired of these lameoid ass explanations for why they can't put out a series when let's wind the clock back just a few years. When you had Russell T. Davies and Julie Gardner running this show, they were running Doctor Who, the Sarah Jane Adventures, and Torchwood all at the same time at one point, and yet they had a series out every year without a split, without a gap, without anything. So any excuse they throw up for why they're doing gap years, any excuse for why they're doing a split season is lame, 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 with a capital L-A-M-E so big that extraterrestrials out there at Zeta Reticuli are seeing it from their observatory posts from how many millions of light years away. You have no excuse why you can't pump out 10 episodes next year at the, if you start filming in January. None. Zero. Zilch. Okay, and on that note, see y'all next week.
Be seeing you.
Bye.